Hello friends, myself Dr. Nidhi Darbari on My Education Treasure. Today in my present video, I am going to explain about the reinforcement skill of micro teaching. Its type. According to Miller, a reinforce is any event or stimulus that follows a behavior closely in time and increases the frequency of that behavior. Reinforcement is an evidence based practice used to teach target skills and increase the desired behavior, a foundational practice underpinning most other evidence based practices. The relationship between the use of a skill and the consequences of that skill or behavior. The relationship between behavior or use of skill and consequences is only reinforcing if that consequence increases the likelihood that the child performs the skill or behavior. It should be noted that activities, foods, or items that are generally considered pleasant or enjoyable by others may not necessarily be reinforcing. That is, what serves as a reinforce to one person may not be a reinforce to another. For example, if a child receives a piece of chocolate when he asks for one and the frequency of chocolate requesting behavior increases, the chocolate can be seen as a reinforce that reinforces chocolate requesting behavior. On the other hand, if chocolate requesting behavior does not increase, the chocolate cannot be considered a reinforcer. What type of behavior do we want to increase for our students? We want to increase our students' skill. Parents often think of good behavior as skills, or doing homework involves skill. Saying please or thank you are skills. Doing chores are skills. Playing nicely with other children involves skill. Acting appropriately in public takes many skills. Why do we want to reinforce or reward our students' skill? Rewarding or increasing our students' skill help them to learn and become more independent. What do we use to reward our students' skill to make them increase? There are many different types of reinforcements, but generally we can use any item, activity, or interaction that makes our students happy, anything they like. Toys can be good reinforcers, either a new toy or a special one that can play. Snacks can work well to reward behavior. Activities or privileges can reinforce the good behavior of the students. Some activities that make children happy are going out with mom or dad, playing in a park, watching television, or playing video games, spending the night at a friend's house, eating in a restaurant, staying up late at night. Attention can also be a great reward to maintain or increase behavior. A smile is attention. A hug, high five, or thumbs up is attention. A pat on the back is attention. A conversation is attention. Praise can be a very powerful form of reinforcement. How do we give in reinforcement? Keep the eyes open all the time for good behavior that the students may do on their own, or ask them to try a new behavior that we want them do eventually do on their own, or teach them a new skill or good behavior that we want them to do. When it happens, praise them. The teacher can give any of the other types of reinforcers with the praise for extra power. It's a good idea to give some of the other types of reinforcement when students are learning a hard skill or behavior, or when we are first teaching them a new one. This makes the learning interesting and motivating and fun for them. Later, when they are good at that skill or behavior, or when it is happening more often, the teacher can decrease the other rewards and just use praise and attention. Types of reinforcers. Reinforcers is a stimulus whose presentation or removal increases the probability of a response. Just as we have two types of reinforcement, in the same way to derive each type of reinforcement, we have two types of reinforcers which can be selected based on their reinforcing nature for a given person and situation. Primary reinforcers. A primary reinforcer is a reinforcer whose reinforcing properties are not acquired through a process of learning. Hull sees food, water, etc. as primary reinforcers that can be used to satisfy or reduce hunger and thirst. If everything we learn has to be followed by primary reinforcer, the occasion for learning would have been very much restricted. To avoid this situation, there is what we call secondary reinforcers. Secondary reinforcers. A secondary reinforcer is that which has acquired its reinforcing properties through association with a primary reinforcer, that is, through learning. Secondary reinforcer therefore reduces the strength of learned or secondary drive. A typical example of secondary reinforcer in human experience is money, because human beings have learned to value money as it can be changed for any primary drive. Secondary reinforcers has therefore important practical implications because of its wide degree of generalization. Secondary reinforcers like praise, expectation, anticipation, social acceptability, and dignity have motivated man to reach appreciable heights in learning rather than anticipation of primary reinforcers. Types of reinforcement. Reinforcement is an event that increases behavior. Mastery on the skill of reinforcement by the student teacher means the frequent use of positive reinforcers. In the classroom teaching, positive reinforcers are used for strengthening the desirable response of students and negative reinforcers for weakening or eliminating the undesirable response. Reinforcement are of two types: positive and negative. Positive reinforcement refers to an increase in the future frequency of a behavior due to the addition of a stimulus following an event. For example, a cookie is given to a child whenever he sits appropriately, and the frequency of child's sitting appropriately increases. Positive reinforcement helps in providing pleasant experiences or a feeling of satisfaction, which contributes towards the strengthening of desirable responses or behavior. It can increase the student's involvement in learning in number of ways. Hence, teacher should manage his reaction to students' response with skill. Experimental psychologists such as Pavlov, Thorndike, and Skinner have used water, food, light, or similar substances that animals could be deprived of as positive reinforcers. With human beings, positive reinforcers include all valuable items that are useful to mankind, as knowledge of result in terms of attention, tokens, stickers, praise and rewards, clapping of hands, teachers' good remarks, recognition, promotion, cash, material rewards, a smile, praise, an affectionate pat at the back, and praising a student. Positive primary reinforcement are based on drives as food, water, oxygen, etc., essential for survival. Positive secondary reinforcement are based on socially derived motives as money, prestige, praise, etc., needed for social existence in the world and are attached to the recognition for a particular act. Following are the core principles of positive reinforcement. Reinforcement must be meaningful. If the reinforcer chosen holds no value, it is very unlikely to affect the behavior. Reinforcers should be natural and related to the skill or behavior. Natural reinforcers are those that would have occurred anyway. Multiple reinforcers are more effective than a single reinforcer. Pairing reinforcers helps to increase value for the student. Recognize and plan for potential of satiation. When the reinforcer is overused, it may lose value for the students. Negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement refers to an increase in the future frequency of a behavior due to the removal of a stimulus following an event. The negative reinforcement results in unpleasant experiences which helps in weakening the occurrence of undesirable response. If the event does not increase the possibilities of the response, it is said to be negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is not punishment. The negative reinforcement represents the unpleasant experience which are used by the teacher for eliminating the undesirable behavior of the student. Punishment is defined as the infliction of pains ranging from knock to shock whose administration inhibits learning and its consequences lead to hatred. By repeating the punishment, the possibilities of repetition of the response are decreased. They are those unpleasant stimuli which the organism will avoid by not doing a particular act. It is important to establish how frequently the reinforcement will be provided. Too frequent use of reinforcement may cause the individual to grow tired of the reinforcement and results in a loss of reinforcement effectiveness. Negative reinforcers include evasion of shock, relief from pain and anxiety, social disapproval or condemnation, scolding, punishing the students, sarcastic remarks, loud noise, punishment, rebuke, fatigue, etc. are few examples. Negative reinforcement encourages students to perform better so they can have an unpleasant condition removed from them can be divided into two: escape or avoidance and avoidance. Performing a particular behavior leads to the removal of an unpleasant stimulus. For example, do your homework and you have a break period. Avoidance. Perform a behavior to avoid unpleasant consequences. For example, student may attend class to avoid missing test. If you found the video to be informative and interesting, I request you all to please give a like to my video to motivate me, share it with others and subscribe it so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get a notification. However, the use of more and more positive reinforcers maximizes students' involvement of learning rather than the use of negative reinforcers. Therefore, the skill of reinforcement involves the teacher to use more and more positive reinforcers and to decrease the use of negative reinforcers so that the student's participation is maximized. Following are the core principles of negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is not punishment. Punishment is meant to decrease behavior, while negative reinforcement is meant to increase behavior by taking away the aversive or unpleasant event. Negative reinforcement is generally used to teach a target skill or behavior to take the place of an interfering behavior. Negative reinforcement is generally used when using positive reinforcement has been ineffective in teaching. Since negative reinforcement is generally used to teach a replacement skill, it may lead to an increase in the challenging behavior. If the negative reinforcer chosen is not of value and the student does not make the connection between the aversive being removed due to his use of the replacement behavior or skill, a dad provides negative reinforcement when he removes the lunch plate when his son says, "All done." The mother is negatively reinforcing her screaming child when she buys the ice cream in the mall. The next one is punishers. They are the aversive stimuli, and when they are used, the individual is afraid of doing a particular act. They are different from reinforcers in the sense that a negative reinforcement precedes the response and forces the organism to avoid the unpleasant situation by doing a particular act, while punisher is followed by a response and forces the organism to avoid punishment by not doing a particular act. Both are, however, aversive stimuli. The main point is that encouraging remark of the teacher increases and discouraging remark decreases the student's participation in the development of learning process. Thank you very much for patiently watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe.